Many people just cannot bear Sigma males. They are a particular kind of men. You may be wondering why this is the case, given that these men, unlike many other males, are often quite independent, want to go their way, and aren't followers. Others may find them odd or out of the ordinary due to their behavior, which makes them hated or even disliked. There are a lot of reasons why people hate Sigma males, but these 10 peculiar ones could surprise you. Number 1. A lot of people believe they're merely acting differently or playing the hard to get. Some people believe that these guys are merely cunning since they appear to be playing hard to get as if they were in a game. They seem to desire to set themselves out from others and become unique. It might be confusing for people to know if something is real or merely a performance. They are unable to determine if these people are genuinely only different in some small manner or whether they are being false. People may get uncertain or even irritated as a result. Sigma males don't care to pretend to be someone else or play games. They are Sigma males, and it's not their business if others can't accept that. They don't let peer pressure or cultural standards affect them since they have a strong sense of self. To some, this could appear odd or out of the ordinary, but for Sigma males, this is just who they are. A Sigma male doesn't desire to be the center of attention, in contrast to an alpha male who might make excessive efforts to stick out. Being on the sidelines and watching from a distance is okay with him. Some individuals may find this surprising because they are accustomed to watching guys fight with one another for attention and power in social settings. For Sigma males, however, it's just their built-in nature. It has nothing to do with pretending or playing games. Number 2. They may be rather stubborn and difficult to influence. Because he is resistant to persuasion, many view the Sigma male as a bit of a problem. If you want someone to alter his view about anything, you have to have a strong case and supporting data. Charm or flattery won't get the better of him. Those who are used to manipulating others or employing mind tricks to get their way may find this irritating. Sigma males prefer reason and reasoning to feelings and meaningless platitudes. They are resistant to peer pressure, societal pressure, and trends. In a society where individuals are always attempting to control and manipulate others, this may make them appear unyielding or challenging to work with, but it also makes them true to who they are. Sigma males maintain their ground and stick to their principles and ideals. It's difficult to influence people, particularly if it contradicts their moral principles. They can spot deceptive behavior and will not hesitate to confront it. To others, this may come across as scary, but it's only their defense mechanism against being exploited. Number 3. People in positions of power may view them as a threat. Top-level managers frequently perceive Sigma males as a potential threat. Why is that so easy? They don't follow the conventions. They merely do what is morally and practically correct, regardless of what other people may think or say. They have no interest in power struggles or moving up the social scale. They don't hesitate to oppose the current order or defend what they believe. Those who are used to being in charge and getting their way may find this unsettling. These males don't feel the need to submit to or comply with the power system. It's not that they wish to topple it. This might cause friction since it deviates from what is expected in a world where competition is fierce. They are the wolves that opt to follow along. Their unpredictable and difficult behavior may be unsettling to people in positions of authority. They may stand out and attract attention because of their independence and reluctance to follow pointless norms, which may be both a benefit and a drawback. Number 4. They might be difficult to understand and unpredictable. One characteristic that you'll frequently find these males to be unpredictable. They resemble a novel with an ever-evolving storyline. They'll surprise you with a twist just when you think you understand them. They just don't live by the same rules that everyone else does, which is the explanation behind this. Instead of trying to fit in or win over others, they respond to circumstances based on their views and experiences. Because of this, it is difficult to predict them because their behavior may differ greatly from that of most others in a similar circumstance. Their reserved demeanor only serves to complicate matters. They keep their goals and personal lives mostly to themselves, which makes it difficult for others to know what they are thinking or what they will do next. However, it's simply who they are. It's not like they're trying to be enigmatic or confusing to people. They would rather not share too much information with people and would rather keep their ideas and feelings to themselves. They don't feel the need to defend themselves from others and cherish their privacy. It's not their desire to come across as aloof or distant, yet this sometimes happens. Number 5. They keep to themselves and don't chat much. It's common for people to find silence concerning someone difficult. They may believe that the other person is unfriendly or dislikes them. People may have this opinion of Sigma males because they tend to be silent and take in everything. People may question why Sigma males don't want to talk to them or hang out with them. They may feel confused or left out. This might occasionally result in false assumptions or misunderstandings. But it's not like they're opposed or indifferent, they just like to be left alone. A Sigma male would never be caught talking poorly or gossiping about people behind their backs. He thinks that deeds speak louder than words and cherishes his solitude. He would rather watch and consider things before acting. This may give him an air of mystery or detachment, but it's simply how he processes information and safeguards his private life. Number 6. They may be a bit scary to deal with since they are brutally honest. Sincerity is the ultimate currency, but for some people, having to say what has to be spoken can seem like a kick in the gut. However, the goal here is to cut through the clutter and address the core issue rather than just being harsh for the sake of being harsh. The Sigma male is a breath of fresh air, or for some, a blast of wind that catches you off guard, in a world of meticulously constructed falsehoods and half-truths. He will tell you the truth, even if it makes you uncomfortable. He won't mince words or give you what you want to hear. For those who are used to being catered to or told what they want to hear, this might be frightening. However, sincerity is the cornerstone of any connection for Sigma males, and they will never betray it. When things aren't going well, they won't act like everything is, which might be difficult for people who would rather live in a more perfect world. The Sigma male's direct approach may not be to everyone's taste, but it is a comfort to those who value honesty. When sincere individuals are exposed to Sigma males' raw reality, they realize it's not an assault but a handshake, a welcome to participate in a society where integrity is the bonding agent. Number 7. They dislike asking for assistance and prefer to solve their difficulties on their own. They are the lone wolves that rely on their isolation for strength. They don't require a support structure or a strong desire for outside assistance to get over their issues. It's about their independence, not about being too arrogant or obstinate. They have confidence in their abilities to conquer challenges. They see obstacles as chances to prove their resiliency and strength. They frequently decide to keep their troubles to themselves, not out of a need for privacy but rather because of a strong sense of accountability. They have a do-it-yourself mentality and rely on their judgment and abilities. They don't back down from challenges or responsibilities. Instead, they meet them head-on with the assurance that they will figure something out. Every challenge presents a potential for development, for strength, and knowledge gain. This is not to say that they never ask for assistance, rather, they only do so when it is needed. They are self-sufficient problem solvers in a society that frequently seeks approval and support from other sources because they value independence and self-sufficiency. Number 8. They have few close friends and are slow to trust. Some people find it difficult to get along with those who only have a small circle of close friends and are hesitant to trust others. They may come out as distant or difficult to get to know as a result. It might even appear as though they have no desire to make new friends. It's possible for someone to always feel like they need to show they are trustworthy or a loyal friend. They might feel excluded or insecure as a result. It might also make it difficult to sense a connection or closeness to them. However, this does not imply that the person is cruel or aggressive, rather, it just means that they are selective about who they allow into their private lives. When it comes to friendships, quality is more important than number. A small number of intimate, sincere ties would be preferable to a big number of friends. And once people think of you as a friend, you'll always have their support and loyalty. Number 9. They might be perceived as a little rebellious since they don't always follow the rules. While following the rules might occasionally feel like walking in a straight line, other people find that straight line walking to be dull. They desire to discover what lies beyond that hill or around the bend. This is the situation for those with a hint of rebellion who don't always go by the rules. While they don't wish to disobey every law, they do wonder why some of them are in existence in the first place. They won't follow them just because everyone else does if they don't make sense. They just don't think that something should be done because it has always been done that way. This doesn't indicate that they are horrible people or that they are seeking problems. They don't mind challenging the status current state, appending established conventions, or even breaking the law when they believe there is a better approach. Some individuals find that conduct disgusting and believe that Sigma males are only making an effort to stand out. However, that is untrue. In addition to making them look a little unpredictable, their rebellious attitude also makes them independent thinkers and artists. When they attempt new things and push limits, they feel most alive. If they can keep their rebellious side under control, this approach may lead to tremendous success and fulfillment. Number 10. When they witness injustice or misconduct, they don't hesitate to speak up. The courageous man is the one who poses the difficult questions, yet many people shy away from confronting unpleasant realities. He addresses issues head-on rather than skirting them or making them seem better than they are. Not scared to question the status situation, this isn't just about stirring up controversy for the heck of it, it's also about not allowing injustice to go unpunished. Indeed, it may cause discomfort for others. Sigma males' adamant opposition to wrongdoing isn't always well liked. Some may perceive it as disturbing, as an unwarranted disturbance of the peace. However, he cannot remain silent in the face of obvious injustice. His passion for what's right, his fire in his eyes, and his reluctance to remain silent when anything goes wrong are all evident. Because the Sigma male is endowed with an acute awareness of justice, an internal compass that always directs him toward fairness. He doesn't aspire to be a hero, but he always speaks up for what's right. The Sigma male takes up the cause of justice vocally while others decide to keep quiet and play it safe. His unwavering courage in voicing his opinions demonstrates his dedication to a society in which justice prevails over wrong. It's an honest reaction to a moral duty. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking videos. And don't miss out on the next video coming up on your screen. Click to watch and continue exploring.